An imposing congressional hearing room bathed in harsh fluorescent light. Mahogany furnishings gleam under the glare of television cameras. Representatives seated at an elevated semicircle, microphones positioned in front of each. Witnesses at a long table below. Television cameras swivel on tripods capturing every angle. Photographers jostling for position. The atmosphere crackles with tension and anticipation. Committee chair banging gavel 3 times. This hearing of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform regarding the Lockwood Stevens federal housing misappropriation case is hereby called to order. The gallery quiets. A ripple of whispers still moving through the crowd. Representative Jasmine Crockett, 40, black, wearing a striking cobalt blue suit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, meticulously organizes her documents. Her silver pen poised above her legal pad. Her eyes convey a laser-like intensity as the main witness, Secretary William Harper, 60, white in an expensive charcoal suit, an American flag pin on his lapel, rises to take his oath. Committee clerk, formally. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Harper raising his right hand, voice dripping with confidence. I do. Harper settles into his chair, adjusting his tie, a practiced smile forming on his face as he leans into his microphone. Harper, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to clarify what I consider to be unfortunate misunderstandings regarding the Federal Housing Assistance Program. I am here to fully cooperate and to set the record straight. Jasmine's mouth curves into a discreet smile, almost imperceptible. She exchanges a knowing glance with her chief legislative aide, Maria Santos, 32, Latina, sharp-eyed and poised, seated behind her. Jasmine taps a folder with her pen, a tiny gesture loaded with significance. Committee chair consulting his notes. We'll begin with questions from the majority. Representative Crockett, you have 15 minutes. Jasmine straightens her shoulders, adjusts her microphone and takes a measured breath. The room falls completely silent. Jasmine, her voice clear and resonant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, turns to face Harper directly. Secretary Harper, I'd like to begin by confirming your previous statements. You've testified under oath before this committee on March 3rd that you never authorized any diversion or reallocation of funds from the Federal Housing Assistance Program. Is that correct? Harper, with a hint of condescension. As I have stated multiple times to this committee and to the press, Representative Crockett, I never authorized any such diversion or reallocation. The program has been administered with the utmost integrity under my supervision. Jasmine nodding thoughtfully. And you've also stated that any discrepancies in fund distribution were clerical errors at lower levels of the department, correct? Harper, that is correct. In an operation managing billions of dollars, minor administrative errors can occur. My team has been transparent about those isolated incidents. Jasmine, her tone shifting slightly. Interesting choice of words, Secretary Harper. Isolated incidents. She taps her tablet screen. I'd like permission to display Exhibit A, Mr. Chairman. Committee Chair without objection. The massive screens around the chamber illuminate with a formal memo, the Department of Housing and Urban Development letterhead prominently displayed. The date, March 12th, is highlighted. Jasmine, Secretary Harper, this is an internal memorandum from your office dated March 12th of this year, bearing your digital signature and biometric authentication code. She zooms in on specific text. I direct your attention to paragraph 3, which reads, and I quote, effective immediately, divert the allocated $75 million from the Emergency Housing Voucher Initiative to the Strategic Development Fund accounts as discussed in our closed session. The room erupts in murmurs. Photographers surge forward, cameras clicking rapidly. Harper, visibly startled, adjusting his glasses to peer at the screen. That document. This must be some sort of administrative error or misunderstanding. I've never seen this memorandum before today. Jasmine, her voice deadly calm. An administrative error with your level 10 biometric signature, Secretary Harper? The same signature that requires both your retinal scan and thumbprint to authenticate? That's quite an extraordinary error, wouldn't you agree? Harper, color rising in his face. These systems are not infallible, Representative. I stand by my statement that I never authorized. Jasmine, cutting him off. Let's set that aside for a moment and move to Exhibit B. Another document appears on screen. A series of bank transfers, numbers highlighted in red. Jasmine, these are transaction records showing the exact $75 million referenced in that memo being moved through a series of what appear to be shell companies before ultimately landing in accounts controlled by Lockwood Development Partners. Pauses deliberately. A company in which your son-in-law, Douglas Whitman, happens to serve as executive vice president. Can you explain this remarkable coincidence? The gallery erupts. The chairman bangs his gavel repeatedly. Harper, now visibly sweating. This is preposterous. You're drawing connections where none exist. I categorically deny any knowledge of these transactions. Jasmine coolly. I find it curious that you're denying knowledge of the transactions now, when previously you were claiming they were merely administrative errors. Which is it, Secretary Harper? The room buzzes with tension. Reporters scribble furiously in notebooks. A cramped, windowless office deep within the Capitol building. Clock on the wall shows 2:47 a.m. Jasmine sits surrounded by towering stacks of documents, 3 computer screens glowing before her, casting her determined face in an eerie blue light. Empty coffee cups litter the desk. Maria enters carrying fresh coffee and a paper bag. Maria, you need to eat something, and maybe consider sleep as a concept. Jasmine doesn't look up, her eyes fixed on the screen, scrolling through complex financial documents. Jasmine, absently, I'll sleep when the 75,000 families who lost their homes get justice. Maria, sighing, setting down a sandwich. At least eat. Dead martyrs don't win cases. This finally breaks Jasmine's concentration. She looks up with a tired smile. Jasmine, I'm not planning on martyrdom, just accountability. Maria, gesturing at the mountains of paper. You've been at this for weeks. The committee hearing is tomorrow. Are you even sure there's a smoking gun in all this? Jasmine, eyes returning to the screen. They think they've covered their tracks perfectly. The arrogance of power, Maria. They believe they're untouchable, that the complexity of the financial web they've created makes them invisible, clicking through several screens. But no matter how complex the web, there's always a pattern. Always. She suddenly stops scrolling, her eyes widening. Jasmine, there. Look at this. Maria leans over her shoulder, squinting at the screen. Jasmine, pointing. See these authentication codes? Each one is unique to Harper. It's like a digital fingerprint that can't be replicated. The pattern is always the same. The 3-digit sequence at the end always starts with his birth month and ends with his daughter's birth date. Maria, impressed. A personal touch to his corruption, poetic Jasmine, and fatal to his defense. This proves beyond doubt that he personally signed off on every single one of these transfers. She enlarges a section of the document. Jasmine. The money trail connects directly to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, then circles back through a series of shell companies before landing in real estate developments in Virginia, Florida, and Arizona. Over $3 billion meant for struggling homeowners, diverted to luxury condos and golf courses. Maria, sitting heavily. Jasmine, you need to understand what you're about to do. You're not just going after a corrupt secretary. This goes all the way to the inner circle of the White House. These people have resources, connections. Leaning forward, deadly serious. They will come after you. Your career, your reputation may be worse. Jasmine finally stops working, swiveling her chair to fully face Maria. Jasmine, with quiet intensity. I didn't run for Congress to have a pleasant career, Maria. I ran to make a difference, gesturing to a wall of photos showing homeless families. These are real people from my district. The Washingtons, who lost the home they'd been in for 30 years. The Garcias, with 3 children now living in their car. The Millers, the Jacksons, the Patels, and her voice strengthening. all while Harper and his cronies divert billions to enrich themselves and their friends. She stands, stretching her cramped muscles. Jasmine, this isn't about me or my career. It's about whether the law applies equally to everyone or just to those without power. Maria studies her for a long moment, then nods, resigned but impressed. Maria, then let's make sure our case is airtight. They return to the documents with renewed determination. Back in the hearing room. The questioning continues, the atmosphere now electrified. Harper's earlier confidence has visibly crumbled. He frequently consults with his attorneys. Jasmine's Secretary Harper, you previously testified under oath that you had never met personally with Victor Demirzi, the CEO of Lockwood Holdings. Isn't that correct? Harper stiffly. That is my testimony. Yes. I may have been in larger meetings where he was present, but I've never had a private meeting with him. Jasmine nodding. That's very specific wording, Secretary. No private meetings. She signals to Maria, who taps on her tablet. Jasmine, permission to display Exhibit C, Mr. Chairman? The screens now show a photograph. Harper and a distinguished-looking man with silver hair on the deck of a luxurious yacht. They're raising champagne glasses in a toast, crystal blue Mediterranean waters visible in the background. Jasmine. This photograph was taken on June 7th of this year aboard the yacht Prosperity, anchored off Saint-Tropez, France. The other man in this photo is Victor Demirzi. Pauses to let this sink in. Notably, this was taken the same day that precisely $120 million was transferred from the Urban Housing Renewal Initiative to Lockwood Holdings for a supposed feasibility study that, according to department records, was never conducted and produced no report. Gasps and exclamations fill the room. The committee members lean forward, some whispering urgently to aides. Harper, red-faced, nearly shouting. This is outrageous. An invasion of privacy. For all you know, this could be a digital manipulation, a fake created to damage my reputation. Jasmine, with exquisite calm. The photograph's complete metadata is available for independent verification by this committee, Secretary Harper, as are the flight records for the private jet that transported you to Nice, France, and the subsequent helicopter transfer to the yacht. Would you like me to display those records as well? Harper confers frantically with his attorneys, who look increasingly concerned. Republican representative, interrupting, point of order. Mr. Chairman, the manner in which Representative Crockett obtained these materials should be investigated. This could constitute illegally obtained evidence. Jasmine smoothly. All evidence presented was obtained through legal means, including FOIA requests, whistleblower disclosures protected under federal law, and public records. The fact that Secretary Harper didn't expect anyone to connect these dots doesn't make the connections illegal. The chairman gavels down further objections. Jasmine. Mr. Harper, would you like to revise your testimony about never meeting with Victor Demirzi, or shall we continue? Harper stares at her with undisguised hatred. The hearing has ended. Chaos erupts as Jasmine exits the committee room into a crowded hallway. Journalists swarm around her, shouting questions, camera lights blinding in their intensity. Journalist. One Representative Crockett. The White House has already issued a statement calling your allegations reckless political theater designed to distract from real issues. Your response? Journalist 2 Representative. The Speaker is calling for an emergency party caucus meeting. Are you concerned about backlash from party leadership? Journalist 3 Congresswoman, we're hearing President Biden has requested an immediate private meeting with you at the White House. Can you confirm? Jasmine walks steadily through the throng, Maria and 2 staffers creating a protective buffer around her. She doesn't break stride but responds calmly. Jasmine, the evidence speaks for itself. I'd hardly call $3 billion in misappropriated housing funds a distraction from real issues. Addressing the second question, I welcome discussions with party leadership about the evidence presented today. She pauses briefly at the third question. Jasmine, If the President wishes to discuss this matter, I am, as always, at the service of the American people. Journalist 4. Are you afraid of the political consequences of going after your own party's administration? This question makes Jasmine stop and turn fully to face the cameras. Jasmine with quiet intensity. What I'm afraid of is living in a country where we've normalized corruption, where we accept that there's one set of rules for the powerful and another for everyone else, where we're more concerned with political consequences than with justice, looking directly into the main camera. That's what should frighten all of us. She continues walking, leaving the journalists clamoring for more. The grandeur of the Roosevelt room in the White House. Late afternoon light streams through the windows. President Biden isn't present yet, but several senior administration officials wait tensely. The Chief of Staff, 58, stands at the head of the table, flanked by the White House counsel and the communications director. The door opens, and Jasmine enters alone, declining the offered escort. She's still in her blue suit from the hearing, showing no signs of fatigue despite the grueling day. Chief of Staff with forced cordiality, Representative Crockett, thank you for coming on such short notice. The President will join us shortly. Can we get you anything? Water? Coffee? Jasmine, coolly professional. No, thank you. I appreciate the hospitality, but I'd prefer we get straight to the purpose of this meeting. She remains standing, declining the offered chair. Chief of Staff shifting uncomfortably. Of course. While we wait for the President, perhaps we could discuss the situation that's developed today. There may be a way to resolve this matter that serves all interests. Jasmine, raising an eyebrow. Situation? Is that the word we're using for a $3 billion corruption scheme that's left thousands of Americans homeless? White House counsel, smoothly interjecting. Representative, what my colleague means is that there are complex legal and institutional considerations here. The allegations you've raised, while serious, could potentially damage vital government programs if handled imprudently. Jasmine, interesting. I wasn't aware that exposing corruption damages government programs. I've always believed corruption itself does the damage. The door opens and President Biden enters. Everyone stands. He looks grave, tired, the weight of office visible in his demeanor. President Biden with a practiced smile. Representative Crockett, thank you for coming. Jasmine, Mr. President. They shake hands, the tension palpable. President Biden, please, let's sit. Everyone takes their seats. Biden leans forward, hands clasped on the table. President Biden, in a conciliatory tone. Representative Crockett, let me begin by saying that I share your commitment to transparency and accountability in government. It's a cornerstone of my administration. He pauses, choosing his words carefully. President Biden, however, I'm concerned that today's public spectacle may have gotten ahead of the facts. Accusations of this magnitude made in such a public forum before all the evidence has been properly vetted through appropriate channels can undermine public trust in vital institutions. Jasmine calmly. With respect, Mr. President, what undermines public trust is corruption going unchecked while government officials look the other way. I brought forward thoroughly vetted evidence after months of investigation. Evidence that multiple agencies had in their possession but failed to act upon. President Biden, leaning back slightly. I understand your frustration with bureaucratic processes, Representative. They can be slow, but they exist for a reason, to ensure fairness and due process. Jasmine, bureaucratic processes. Mr. President, I have documented evidence of the systematic theft of $3 billion meant to keep roofs over Americans' heads. This isn't a matter of paperwork moving too slowly. President Biden more firmly. Alleged theft, Representative. In this country, accusations require due process before becoming facts. Jasmine, which is precisely why I've come here today, as a courtesy, to inform you that tomorrow morning I will be presenting all evidence gathered in my investigation to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. The room falls silent. The Chief of Staff and Communications Director exchange alarmed glances. President Biden, interrupting, voice hardening. Representative Crockett, I need you to understand the broader implications here. We're facing crucial elections in 4 months. The housing program you're essentially attacking has been a signature achievement of this administration. This kind of politically explosive scandal could derail everything we've worked for. Jasmine studies the president, a new understanding dawning in her eyes. Jasmine with quiet dignity. Mr. President, when I took my oath of office, there was no exemption for election years. When I swore to defend the Constitution and serve the American people, that oath didn't come with a political calendar attached. She leans forward, her voice unwavering. Jasmine, 75,000 families have lost their homes. Elderly people who worked their whole lives for a small piece of security. Children who now do their homework in shelter bunk beds or the backseats of cars, while the money that was meant to help them lines the pockets of already wealthy men. A heavy silence falls over the room. The president seems to age before her eyes, the weight of what she's saying visibly impacting him. Jasmine, rising from her chair. Justice doesn't have a political timeline, Mr. President, and neither do I. She gathers her belongings, preparing to Solikiv. President Biden with steel in his voice. Think very carefully about your next steps, Representative. The implications reach further than you might realize. Jasmine meeting his gaze steadily. I always do, Mr. President. That's why I'm here. She walks out, leaving the president and his advisors in stunned silence. A television studio, lights blazing. A popular evening news program is live on air. The anchor, an established journalist with gravitas, sits across from Jasmine, who appears composed despite the media storm surrounding her. Anchor tonight, an exclusive interview with Representative Jasmine Crockett, whose explosive allegations against Secretary William Harper and potentially others in the Biden administration have dominated headlines today. Representative, since your congressional hearing this morning, the country seems divided. Your hashtags #TruthNow and Courageous Crockett are trending nationally, but you're also being accused of grandstanding and political opportunism. Jasmine, appreciate the opportunity to address that, Karen. There's nothing opportunistic about performing the oversight function Congress is constitutionally mandated to do. I didn't seek out this investigation. It found me through constituent complaints. I have 4,181 emails from families in my district who lost their homes under this program. It's those people who deserve answers, not politicians worried about their image or careers. Applause erupts from portions of the studio audience. Anchor. The White House released a statement an hour ago suggesting that your public disclosure of evidence may have compromised ongoing internal investigations. How do you respond? Jasmine with a touch of irony. I find that fascinating. What ongoing investigations? The ones they never initiated until I presented my evidence publicly? The same investigations they tried to discourage me from pursuing just this afternoon in the White House? She turns directly to the camera, her expression intensifying. Jasmine, to everyone watching right now. When powerful people try to silence someone speaking uncomfortable truths, always ask yourself, what are they afraid you might hear? The anchor shifts uncomfortably, checking her notes. Anchor Secretary Harper has categorically denied all allegations and suggested that you've manipulated evidence for political gain. His attorney released a statement calling your investigation a vindictive witch hunt. Jasmine, nodding calmly. When you can't refute the evidence, attack the person presenting it. It's a predictable tactic, but it doesn't change the facts. Every document I presented today has been authenticated by independent experts. Every financial transaction has been verified through multiple sources. The evidence speaks for itself. Anchor, some of your colleagues across the aisle are calling for an ethics investigation into your methods of obtaining this information. Are you concerned? Jasmine, with a small smile. I welcome any investigation into my methods. Everything was obtained legally through protected whistleblower disclosures, FOIA requests, and public records. The real question is why more of my colleagues weren't looking into this themselves. Jasmine enters her congressional office, visibly exhausted. It's well past midnight. Her phone buzzes constantly with notifications. Maria is waiting, surrounded by televisions, all showing different news channels, all discussing the day's revelations. Maria, rising from her desk. You were brilliant on National Tonight. Jasmine, sinking into a chair. Tell that to my mentions. The trolls are out in force. She displays her phone screen, showing a stream of hateful comments. Maria, grimly. It's worse than that. They're already releasing stories about your personal life on conservative outlets. Digging into your dating history, college papers, family connections, anything they can twist. Jasmine, unsurprised. Of course they are. Standard playbook. When you can't challenge the message, destroy the messenger. Her phone rings with an unknown number. She stares at it warily. Maria. Another reporter? That's the 27th call in the last hour. Jasmine, checking the display. No. Blocked number. She answers cautiously. Jasmine Representative Crockett speaking. A long pause. Then a voice speaks, clearly disguised by electronic distortion. Disguised voice. You've only scratched the surface, Representative. Harper is just the fall guy. The real corruption goes much deeper. Jasmine instantly alert. Who is this? Disguised voice. Someone who knows the truth. Someone who can prove the scheme goes all the way to the vice president's office. Jasmine skeptical. That's a significant claim. Why should I believe you? Disguised voice because I helped set up the accounts. I've been keeping insurance. Pause. Tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Lincoln Memorial parking lot, southwest corner. Come alone, no phones, no devices. The call disconnects. Jasmine looks at Maria, who has been listening intently. Maria, alarmed. You can't seriously be considering going. It's obviously a trap. Jasmine, thoughtfully. Maybe. Or maybe our first real insider source. Maria, someone who just happens to call right after you've made national news? Come on, Jasmine. They could be setting you up for anything. A fake story to discredit you or worse. Jasmine, making a decision. That's why I won't go alone. Call Keith in security and have tech sweep the office and my devices again. If they're monitoring us, I want to know. Pouring rain. The Lincoln Memorial looms in the background, illuminated against the night sky. Jasmine waits in a parked car, raindrops drumming on the roof. She's wearing a hooded raincoat, minimal makeup, almost unrecognizable from her public persona. A security man, Keith, 40s, solid and watchful, sits in the driver's seat. Keith scanning the area. Still clear. But I don't like this, Congresswoman. Too exposed. Jasmine, eyes fixed on the meeting point. If they wanted to make a public scene, they'd have chosen a different location. They want privacy. A figure approaches through the rain, shoulders hunched, face hidden beneath a hood. Male, middle-aged, moving with nervous energy. Jasmine. That might be our contact. Stay here, but keep the comm open. Any sign of trouble? Keith grim. I'm there in 10 seconds. Jasmine exits the car, walking into the rain toward the hooded figure. As she approaches, he glances around anxiously. This is Daniel Foster, 50. White, once distinguished features now, haggard with stress. Daniel, voice low and tense. Representative Crockett? Jasmine, cautious. That depends on who's asking. Daniel, my name is Daniel Foster. Until 3 weeks ago, I was Director of Operations at the Treasury Department. Jasmine, you have 1 minute to convince me this isn't a waste of my time, Mr. Foster. Daniel glances nervously over his shoulder, then reaches into his jacket. Jasmine tenses, but he produces only a waterproof envelope. Daniel handing it to her. Everything you need is in here. Login credentials, transaction records, meeting recordings. I was the one who processed the authorizations for the transfers. Harper approved. When I started asking questions, they moved me to a meaningless position, then manufactured reasons to force me out. Jasmine takes the envelope but doesn't open it. Jasmine. Why come forward now? You must have known about this for months. Daniel's face contorts with emotion. Daniel, voice breaking. My sister and her kids were in the program. They lost their home in Phoenix 3 months ago. She didn't tell me until they were already living in her car, looking away. I helped steal the money that should have saved them. I can't live with that anymore. Jasmine studies him, weighing his sincerity against years of political instincts. Jasmine. This goes beyond anonymous leaks, Mr. Foster. If what you're saying is true, I'll need you to testify formally. Daniel panicked. They'll destroy me. You don't understand who you're dealing with. These people, they don't just end careers, they end lives. Jasmine, placing a hand on his shoulder. Not if I can help it. What you're doing takes real courage, Daniel. But evidence without testimony can be discredited. We need both. Rain streams down both their faces as Daniel wrestles with his fear. Daniel, finally. What guarantees can you give me? Jasmine. No absolute guarantees. But my full protection, legal representation, and my personal word that I will stand with you every step of the way. A long moment passes as Daniel makes his decision. Daniel, with resignation, I'll testify. But not just to a committee. We need criminal prosecutors. This goes beyond politics. Jasmine, with firm resolve, I couldn't agree more. A formal conference room at the Department of Justice. Jasmine presents evidence to a team of federal prosecutors, including the stern, no-nonsense Special Prosecutor Elena Ramirez, 50s. Slides displaying complex financial transactions fill the screens on the wall. Jasmine, what you're seeing is a coordinated, systematic criminal enterprise operating within multiple federal agencies. The diversion of public funds on an unprecedented scale. $3 billion meant for housing assistance, redirected through a network of shell companies to private developments benefiting a small circle of connected insiders. She advances to the next slide, showing a web of connections between government officials and private entities. Jasmine, the scheme required sign-off at multiple levels, creating a distributed responsibility that provided plausible deniability for each participant. Classic corruption architecture. Special Prosecutor Ramirez skeptically. Representative Crockett, these are extraordinary accusations against the highest levels of our government. You understand the burden of proof required for prosecutions of this magnitude? Jasmine confidently, I do, which is why I've brought this. She inserts a thumb drive into the computer. A video begins playing on screen. It shows a secure meeting room in the White House. Recognizable figures including Harper, the Vice President's Chief of Staff, and several other administration officials are clearly visible. White House official, on video. The Housing Fund provides the perfect vehicle. It's massive, complicated, and touches multiple jurisdictions. Oversight is fragmented by design. And you're certain this can't be traced? Harper, on video, smiling. The money moves through 17 separate entities before reaching its destination. By then, it's completely clean. We've been running smaller tests for months without issue. Prosecutors watch in stunned silence as the conversation continues, explicitly detailing the corruption scheme. Special Prosecutor Ramirez, visibly shocked. Where did you obtain this recording? Jasmine, from a whistleblower with direct access who is prepared to testify under oath, along with full documentation authenticating the video. The atmosphere in the room has completely transformed. Special Prosecutor Ramirez with newfound respect. Representative Crockett will need to move quickly. Once word of this gets out, Jasmine, finishing her thought. Evidence will start disappearing. I'm aware. That's why I came to you first before going public with this portion of the evidence. Special Prosecutor Ramirez will need witness protection for your source. Jasmine, already arranged through House security channels, but he'll need more robust protection once this breaks. The Special Prosecutor rises, suddenly all business. Special Prosecutor Ramirez will brief the Attorney General personally. We'll need a grand jury by tomorrow. The House Oversight Committee, hearing room, even more packed than before. Television cameras from every major network. The gallery filled beyond capacity. Armed federal marshals stand at key positions throughout the room. At the witness table sits Secretary Harper, now with 3 attorneys beside him, the Vice President, looking grave, and the Vice President's Chief of Staff, maintaining a mask of calm confidence. The committee members file in, a buzz of anticipation filling the room. Jasmine takes her seat, composed and focused. Behind her sits Daniel Foster, now under formal witness protection. Committee chair, banging his gavel. This special session of the House Committee on Oversight and Reform is now in session. We are here to continue our investigation into allegations of systemic corruption in the Federal Housing Assistance Program. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that this is a formal congressional proceeding, and appropriate decorum is expected. Turning to Jasmine. Representative Crockett, you have 30 minutes for questioning. Jasmine arranges her documents, then looks up, surveying each of the witnesses with deliberate calm. Jasmine, thank you, Mr. Chairman, addressing the room. What we're investigating today goes beyond partisan politics, beyond normal government dysfunction. We're examining a betrayal of public trust so profound that it calls into question the fundamental contract between citizens and their government. She stands, moving to a screen that begins displaying images. American families standing in front of foreclosed homes, elderly couples in temporary shelters, children doing homework in cars. Jasmine, these are the real people affected by what we're discussing today. Not statistics, not budgetary line items. Human beings who played by the rules, who trusted their government to deliver on its promises when they needed help most. She clicks to the next series of images: luxury developments, private jets, yachts. Jasmine, and these are the acquisitions, made by the same officials who swore to protect the public interest, paid for with money that should have kept families in their homes, not built waterfront mansions and private golf courses. The Vice President's Chief of Staff leans over to whisper urgently to his attorney. Committee Chair, uncomfortably. Representative Crockett, please confine your questions to the specific allegations rather than these emotional appeals. Jasmine firmly. With respect, Mr. Chairman, I am addressing exactly what matters here. The human cost of corruption. But if you prefer, I'll move to specific questions. She turns to face the Vice President directly. Jasmine, Mr. Vice President, in your previous statement to this committee, you categorically denied any knowledge of the redirection of housing funds to private development projects associated with administration officials or their families. Is that still your testimony? Vice President, with practiced dignity. It is, Representative. As I've stated repeatedly, I had no knowledge of any improper activities related to the housing program. Jasmine, then, I'd like to introduce Exhibit 17 into the record. She signals to a technician. The screens change to display an official meeting schedule. Jasmine, this is your official schedule from April 12th. You'll note the highlighted entry showing a private meeting in your West Wing office with Secretary Harper, Mr. Calloway from your staff, and Victor Demirji, CEO of Lockwood Holdings. Can you explain the purpose of this meeting that apparently slipped your memory? Before the Vice President can answer, the committee chair interrupts, visibly agitated. Committee Chair Representative Crockett, I must insist that you submit new evidence through proper channels before springing it on witnesses in a public hearing.